Good afternoon, colleagues. So welcome to today's workshop. So let me post the link again. So today's slide deck and recordings or all the worksheets will be available later. And you can also check the link if you want to refer to the slide, and we will provide a PDF version later on. So let me share the screen. So today we will have some time to try different tools. In particular, I'm not sure whether you try these tools before the POE. So some of you may think, ChatGPT can't be used in Hong Kong officially, but actually there are some official tools that can be used. So we can have some experience time to try these later on. Okay, but before going to these kind of things or stable diffusion for drawing, so let's have some time for some discussions or some literature things first. So hope you can see the screen, and let me also change to full screen. So please let me know if you can't see the screen or hear my voice. So yes. Okay, so maybe we can start. The topic is creating the unseen applications of generative AI teaching learning. So again, a short introduction. So I am a senior e-learning theologist and also a member in both IEEE and Advanced HE, and also associate editor for the TLT, and also the IEEE Asia Pacific Region EAC chair. And also my colleague, Cindy Leung, she is in Faculty of Education. So by the way, should be considered as a president office in. And Cindy is in Faculty of Education, but she is also my former colleague in the same team. So we would like to share some of our experience or some of our observations today. So in particular, so we will spend some time on some basic introduction first for some literature for generative AI, ChatGPT, prompt design. So we are not just talking about ban or not using ChatGPT, but we also talk about how we use ChatGPT more effectively and more ethically. And we'll after these some lectures we will talk about a hands-on exercise that you have around 20 minutes to try the environment and have some discussions later on. So how we can use them to facilitate our teaching, and what should students learn, and what should we teach. So of course we also talk about some other tools. So besides ChatGPT, there are so many tools come up for these within these 1 month or 2 months, and etc. Okay, and also have some drawings at the end. So maybe you can draw something and also think about what kind of skills should students learn later on. So we'll spend for 2 hours. So, but before going to the content, let's start a survey. I want to also gather some of your information. So I actually create a few examples, still few of them. So maybe I can, first of all, so please get into thismenti.com and then use the code, this code. Or maybe I can also share in the chat room. Again, I want to gather some information from colleagues. So whether you have used it, whether you have hurdles, whether you have some other worries or concerns. So maybe we spend maybe five minutes. We'll raise one more colleagues answering it first, and it's audience page, so you can answer some questions later on. And we can have some discussions, initial discussions, and then also try to address some of your concerns throughout this workshop. Okay, we have around 40 students, colleagues. So that means we wait for maybe 20, etc. So, and then we will 20 colleagues responding, and then we can start to have the discussions. Okay, so we have around 16. So majority of you, so around 60 to 50% mentioned you haven't tried before. Some of the use you may haven't considered as AI tools. For example, Grammarly. So Grammarly we also consider as AI tools, although we in Hong Kong we didn't classify Grammarly as a generative AI. So our definition in Hong Kong generative AI is that we create things without students any input, and also basic or the primary input. But for Grammarly, we actually just changed the wording. So we still consider Grammarly is some tools that AI tools that can be used. But generative, the ChatGPT in this semester is not by default not to be used. Okay, so thanks for feedback. So we will talk about different AI tools in the second half of the workshop, and maybe for the 10 of you, you can also share some of your experience later on. Okay, let's go to the next one. So yeah, so the tools that has been used, some of them, IBM Auto AI. So I used Watson before, so for several years. We use POE. Yes, POE is the one that officially we can use it for assessing ChatGPT and some other tools. So POE, yes. Midjourney is for drawing. We will have a 10 minutes drawing using Midjourney or a Stable Diffusion later. ChatGPT, again, so we need VPN, etc. So although today we also always talk about ChatGPT, but actually we use it as a full POE. So even today. And then for Notion AI, so Cindy is an expert on it. She also give some explanations on Notion AI. So Notion AI is good at creating content because Notion itself has a very good structure in the system. So that's why the Notion AI, the performance is quite okay in my opinion. Okay, yes. Copilot, yes, I still want to wait for the Microsoft Copilot coming up later on. So it really changed how we work. So for Copilot, I'm not sure whether all of you or colleagues have watched the videos from Microsoft before on the Office Copilot tools. So let's see the next page. And a good experience. So let's see any experience. Let me enter to show the experience. So good to get some ideas. So yes, it's true. In my opinion, for the ethical way using ChatGPT is to creating new ideas. But further elaborating on it really depends on human, and also try to shape the content is really by human. And another term, more technical term or academic term, is perspective taking. So I learned this word from ChatGPT, some of the articles. So it's good at perspective taking. So if you want to be dimension A or stakeholder A, you want to learn what are they thinking about. So you're using ChatGPT as a pretend as a stakeholder and giving some response from their perspective is a good tool. So which is also good for kickstarting the discussions or facilitating discussions in the discussions and class discussions. Okay, efficient fun for students, bad academic honesty issues. Yes, we will talk about academic honesty and also detachment later on. Also concerns about plagiarism, originality. We will also cover this today. More efficient in lesson preparation and creating in-class activities. I will show you some examples. So today is not talking about just asking students to use it. Today's workshop is also about how we can use it to have a better and more efficient preparation of the TNL. So we will also cover this today. And let's see any other comments. So hurdles, assessment. Yes, how to assess the right now do we need to change the assessments and what should be learned and what should be assessed. So we will cover this in the second half of the we will partly cover this in the first half and also in the second half of the semester. Inaccurate information, true. So that's why we also need to think about one of the skills that I think we need to teach is how to let students to evaluate whether the information is correct or not. So inaccurate information, that's true. Yes, and of course, my tricks for this is also you can design some assessment that can easily trigger the system to provide inaccurate information. So such that you will, if students directly just copy and paste the answer from ChatGPT as an assignment or as a deliverable, if you design the question trickly, insert some trick, so the answers may be wrong, and you can easily find out, oh, this answer is from ChatGPT rather than from human from student itself. VPN, sure. I'm not sure in Xi'an University, but for Hong Kong U, we have already have a sign a contract with the I'm not sure it's a full Open AI or full Microsoft, so we can officially use ChatGPT in the next academic year. So I think for other universities also did that, so but I'm not sure whether Xi'an University IT department have tried to approach Microsoft or OpenAI for that. So maybe Jason has some more ideas for that. So whether it can be used, we can officially use ChatGPT soon.
We are discussing with Microsoft about this. I think it will come soon.
Yes, thank you. So that's why VPN should not be an issue later. And comprehension, creativity, yes. Somehow ChatGPT actually limit our creativity, but also allow students to think more through different perspectives. I can also show you some examples later. Yeah, so there are some hurdles. I hope you have some ideas. Okay, so here shows the expectation assessment. We will cover this. We design ideas. I will cover this in the second half. Learning AI. We have some workshop. We have some time for you to practice, and then something new AI tools. Yeah, we will have a number of AI tools demo shown to you in the second half. And in the first half, we mainly focus on ChatGPT. Okay, thanks for your quick feedback. So I hope actually we will try to address most of the things as much as possible. We also provide some reflection and discussion time later on. So hopefully we can try to provide you enough content so to let you think about not just for this academic semester, maybe for the coming academic year you can think of this. And okay, so let's talk about generative AI. So generative AI, you can see is the use of AI to create new content or data that did not exist before. So that's why in Hong Kong we assume Grammarly is okay. So but for it's not generative AI, but it's just AI but not generative AI. But for ChatGPT, all those things will be generative AI. So of course, if you are from engineering or from CS, you actually this kind of generative AI become a very hot topic for 2 or 3 years already. Yes, 2 or 3 years already. So there are lots of promising things coming up for the previous few years. But once ChatGPT comes and then becomes more publicly available, this topic becomes more popular in all around the world. Of course, you can use it for generating image. So image to text to image, music. There are already some tools that can help you to create the lyrics, music, song, etc. Even ChatGPT, you can ask ChatGPT to create a musical note, and you can play it, and also use the guitar to play it. There are some demonstrations online already. So and even the videos and animation. So you can use and also slides present. So you can also use them using text to describe the content and create a bullet point and convert into slides later on. So and also animation. So these has been there are lots of tools available. So and a more technical way is using existing data to learn the pattern. That means we need to have data sets. I will talk about the data set next page, and then generating new information. So it's actually depends on the old things. So depends on the existing data and to generate something new, but still within the data set. So you can't ask them to create something is entirely new. So this is not they can do, and this is our human job. And of course, there are lots of applications. So for example, this one I use the Midjourney to create. So creating art, so creating content, writing content. So and then designing new products, etc. Even for this page, I actually use for this page the content is actually created by ChatGPT. So that's why this is the first example I shown to you. So I entered this prompt. So you are a teacher on generative AI. You need to teach learners how who know nothing about it. So these 8 things that are up on the introduction. And for example, what can it use to how to use it? What is the impact? And it actually gives me 8 topics. So and of course, some of the topics are not interesting enough. So that's why I combine 8 topics into just 5. I pick 5 out of 8, and then those 5 topics combine into 2 topics, and then which is shown here. So we have 3 bullet points, right? So 2 of them is actually I pick one, use it directly, and 2 other items are actually combined from 5 of them. And then I also use another prompts. So in the ChatGPT, assume you are a teacher on generative AI. So you need to teach teachers. And then please provide a definition, and then that can be understood by learners without technical background. So that's why at the end they come up with the first one. Yes. And then of course there are so many technical terms. So that's why I remove the technical terms, simplify the explanation, and come up with at the end the previous page. And you can see right now ChatGPT. So if you just have a very short prompt, most likely you can't get the thing that you want. So maybe the simplicity or complexity or the length or the content, we still need human effort to try to trim it or reshape it and simplify it, removing some things that the stakeholders don't need to know, or learners that think is too complicated, etc. And of course, I also create those images through Midjourney. So how to come up with the prompts? I just also ask ChatGPT. So you are expert on using Midjourney. Try to write a prompt write a 200 prompt on it. So describe the richness of generative AI, and at the end they come up with these 4, and I pick one of them, and then with several iterations. So that's why right now maybe in the future we don't need Shutterstock at the end. So we just go into Midjourney or Stable Diffusion, type the things you want and create by yourself, etc. And then so that's why for the previous page, although it cannot be generated automatically, but actually these tools help me to make up if this page, the content itself. So this is something teachers can do it, students can do it also. So that's why if you ask students to write an essay, so this is something actually ChatGPT can do most of the jobs. And this is just a page, a very high level description. I don't go into detail. I just want to mention. So we have at the beginning, we have the database here. So existing data with so many database. So some of them Google have 2 billion image, and then with tons of data and image. And then using the model, for example, the GPT-3, and of course we have GPT-4 and maybe 5 now, maybe in their lab. So and then come up with these models, and then with another model, and then come up with this application. So we will try Stable Diffusion today, and you can also have Midjourney. So that's why if you're talking about LLM or generative AI, most of the time we are talking about applications in this level. But at the back end, we have models and we have lots of data. So at the end, and then one of the questions that some people may ask, so whether the company have the authority, have the rights to use to collect the data for generating content. So this is something we also have to think about, whether the system, whether the company have the rights. So have they paid the user or the drawer or the creator on these data set? So this is something that we need to know. But for teachers, just simply saying what you just need to know is that we have the database from the back end. Based on the models, we have the applications, and most of the time we will use on the application to generate content. So yes, using existing data to learn the pattern, and then creating new information based on the front end. Okay, so I will just use one page to summarize. Okay, so this page is created by myself. I didn't ask ChatGPT. So this page is about the concerns and limitations. So when we think about using ChatGPT for TNL or for work, there are several things that is still debatable. For example, privacy. So whether you are sending your information to ChatGPT or OpenAI or Microsoft, etc. So if you are cautious enough, you may want if you have your things are too many personal information, do you still want to share this information to those organizations and etc. For ownership. So once of course the database itself has the ownership problem, and even for the generated content, who own the data? So OpenAI or the student or the teacher or the university, or on who nobody owns the content. So this is something you have to think about. So accessibility. So VPN is an issue. So that's why I have concerns directly teaching you ChatGPT. I just teach you through the POE right now. Uh, but as mentioned, so later on, coming academia, most of the time for university staff and students, so all of them can use the ChatGPT officially. So it should not be an issue. So for bias, so because of the data itself, the data have some bias because of the sampling issues. So that's why we also have something that we have to think about. So fabrication of false contents, as mentioned by a teacher, some of the content, ChatGPT is good at confidently telling you some wrong information. So they're really confident telling you some wrong things. So that's why if students take it for granted or some people take it for granted, there may be some issues. For example, in particular, asking for the medical advice, or counseling advice. So this is something that we have to be careful. And of course, misconduct, creating fraud and information or details based on ChatGPT. So fraud will become more and more clever. So later on, so the response will be more clever than the past. So that's why there are lots of issues coming up later on. So there are still lots of concerns, debates, conversation, and limitations. So we have to also think about whether you still want to talk about this. Okay, let's talk about ChatGPT and prompt design. Today's discussion is actually also some of them is from this websites or GitHub, but it's an MIT license, so it's free to use. So let's talk about ChatGPT. So it's a conversational bot that can transform the landscape of how we learn and how we teach. So this is my opinion. And in my opinion, there are several good things. So because they can provide you a detailed response, you can ask the system to provide 500 words or 200 words or 50 words. So you can, as mentioned in my previous example, you can define the requirement of the output, and it can provide you the answer within 1 minute, or you actually keep writing. So keep providing you response. So it's very fast. And it's tailor-made, so you can define the requirement. So what kind of feedback you can the system should provide, and also based on what assumption and what requirement. So that's why we can control the input, we can control the output, and it can provide you quick response. And it looks like a personal tutor or personal assistant, but it works 24/7. And it's good at condensing information. Try to summarize, for example, fit in maybe 10,000 words, and then you can ask the system to provide 200 abstract. So it can do it very fast. It can provide some quick feedback, but my question is whether it's meaningful or not. As mentioned, so sometimes it's false, creating wrong content. So that's why we also have to be aware. So we can't 100% guarantee the feedback to students is correct, but it can provide a quick feedback, but may not be true in some situations. And of course, try to use it ethically. And there are some alternatives. For example, some of the teachers may think, oh, for ChatGPT, so they can write contents, but they can't provide reference. Sometimes they can provide reference, but they are wrong. If you go for the proximity AI, they can provide you a correct right reference. So that's why if you ask students to write something, ask them to provide a proper reference and a correct reference. If students use these two rather than ChatGPT, so all the things that created will be referenced to some correct and true reference. So this is something that I have to be aware. Currently, I assume not many students know about this yet. And then second one is a POE. So will have some time to try it later on. Okay, so let's talk about the prompt design. So we will talk about prompt design as mentioned. I showed you one example before. So here shows another example. I asked the system to pretend as a plagiarism checker. So which is the instruction or the route, so or the task. So the instruction that you want to perform. I write you a sentence and you reply on the undetected plagiarism trace in the language of different sentence and nothing else. So that means you don't need to output something extra. And then do not write explanations on replies. Also don't limiting what to be output. Okay. Sometimes you want explanation, sometimes you don't want. So that's why you can actually change the prompt. And then you also provide the first example. So here shows the example. And you can see from this example, we actually talk about several things. The instruction, so what to be done, the context, some extra information to longer, more detailed explanation on the instructions or the roles. And then input data, this is an input data once, and then an output data. So the format, so whether you include these or exclude that, etc. So and actually, if we are talking about prompt design or prompt engineering, it's actually focusing on these four things: instructions, clear instructions, more context, control the input, and control the output. And if students want to copy and paste from the ChatGPT to the assignment directly, they need to have a more detailed output indicator. For example, whether it's bullet point or not, whether it's following a table or not, whether it's formatting, following the SMART process or a SWOT analysis, etc. So you can even write here is you should show the result as a SWOT analysis format, and then the system will give you a table showing the SWOT. So all these can be included. So if you have a longer and more detailed prompt, we will give a better result. And you can have more examples here. So maybe I can jump to this one. So this is the awesome GPT prompt. And here there are so many examples. So pretend as a translator, pretend as a Linux, pretend as a JavaScript console, Excel sheet, and then travel guide, etc. So they already existing so many assistants for you. So what you need to do is first of all copy and paste and put in the ChatGPT, and then you can ask something. So the result will be more accurate. Okay, so why we need this is because we want the system to provide you more relevant content and more accurate things and something that you really want. So that's why for as a user, most of the time we search for a relevant role first and then to model or to shape the system in order to provide relevant content. So you can go for this, have some ideas. So here is just one of them. Okay, so let me go to the page again. So okay, so let's talk about how we can be used to design TNL content. Here shows some of the examples. Using ChatGPT to help me design the workshop. So this is the things that I use it in this workshop. So I assume that I wrote define the role already. So these are some of the questions I asked the system. So what should I teach? Also, and then based on the topic I asked, and then they provide 8 topics, and then can you help me to create a workshop title? And then they create 8. And then based on those 8 of them, I actually create this one. I select this one and change something. And then help me to design a 150 word description of the workshop. And then whether it can help me to create AI image, etc. So this is a question that I raised. So you can see is I have to design the prompt by myself. I have to, based on the answers, I have to change the content by myself. For example, they provide me 8 answers or 8 suggestions. I have to pick one of them and then change some of the wordings. I remember I changed some of the wordings. I remember it's not in teaching and learning, it's something else. I change it and also make it to be more concise and specific, and I fit into the system again. And it come up with the description, I also change it again. So this is the when you design some workshop or training materials or new course. In particular, if you want to teach a new course, you may also use it as a perspective taker. So let you give you some new ideas, and then you try to shape or recite or change the ideas to something that you really want, or actually stimulate you to think more about a topic. So another approach that I did before is I try to adopt UDL. So for some of you may know UDL is for accessible learning. That means try to help students with special educational needs. That means the SEN. So students with SEN in courses. If there are some students with SEN in courses, we can adopt UDL such that the course materials can accessible by them. And of course, if you know about UDL, there are so many rules and topics and ideas and tricks. So that's why there are so many things that I can think of, but I don't know where to start. So that's why I start to ask the ChatGPT. So, okay, you are an expert on this. You know how to adopt it for teaching large classes, such that the students with different learning habits can learn in 4 different ways. So can you tell me raw reasons why it should be adopted? Any things that you have to be aware of, etc. And I ask the system for 6 more questions on related to these kinds of things. And then at the end, okay, based on our conversations, so can you give me a 200 summary? And then so the tricks here is actually we try to guide the system to think of this topic from different perspective, and then ask the system to give a summary. So the answer will be much more concrete and concise comparing to we just ask the system. So the answer will be more concise comparing to we just ask the system directly. Okay, so can you tell me how to adopt UDL in large classes? Without this thinking process, the answer will be less meaningful. But with this thinking process, instruct the system to think bit by bit and questions by questions, the answer will be more concrete. Okay, so this is one of the another example. If you are thinking about using ChatGPT to design your courses, this is something that you can use it as a tutor. Okay, let's jump to another topic. So talking about detections. So several teachers and several of you colleagues also think about, okay, so it's based on the previous one is so powerful. So the tools itself is so powerful. Can we and students may just copy and paste the content without thinking it, or just revise a little bit, rephrase a little bit, and you can submit already. So without thinking, going through the thinking process. So that means is the assignment still worthwhile to do? So here shows some example. So first of all, there are some tools that can detect, and the principle is actually try to specify the vocabulary, try to specifying the linguistic characteristics that frequently have observed. And some of the tools actually depends on whether the system can predict the next word. So if can be you can use it for predicting the next word. That means mostly it is by machine. Okay, so back to here. So we can have vocabulary, linguistic characteristics. So that's why we can use human for detection. So if you read several with whole article from the beginning to end, you may sometimes identify it's by human or some. And of course, you can also use machine to detect it. And there are some tools. For example, ChatGPT-0. So no, not ChatGPT, it's GPT-0. So it's the most popular tools because it's the first comer. So the first detector. So it has been widely used. But it's actually a student work. So if you remember, it's actually created by an undergraduate student. At that time, so but it becomes the first one and become the most popular one. Turnitin. So Turnitin, it has been used for academic honesty or integrity things for years, and they launched the detection tools last week. So so here shows some of the example, and I will show you some other examples later. So GPT detector is for research purpose. We can skip it. OpenAI test classifier. So it's created by OpenAI. That means it's the official detector. So yes, because ChatGPT is created by OpenAI, and then the organization itself also create a test detector. And we try different tools. Some of them is okay, some of them not okay. It's not 100% guarantee. sometimes they can give you false negative. Sometimes it can give you false positive. So that's the problem. So you can't 100% say, oh, it has been detected and it must be by machine. So it's not. So that's why it's an issue. So let me see if I can give you an example. Yes. So let me give you some example. So I can write you this one. Maybe this one. Let me see. So I get into the Feedback Studio, and you can see in the Feedback Studio they have this one AI, and then it indicating, oh, it's around 44% of them are from AI. So once I click it, so let me jump to here. Let's see. So and then you can see. So this is one of the example. Let me see if I can zoom out. Yeah. So you can see. So we try different prompting techniques to see whether the system can detect. And you can see some of the examples. So not every line can be detected, but most of them can be detected. And you can see, so these are things created by ChatGPT. And you can see some of them are GPT, some of them are in AI. And then for prompting, but this is by human, right? So this is by human. So but it has been classified as a AI generator. So that means with some false positive. And then few sub-prompting, we try some other approach. So you can see the first half is not detected, but we're still able to detect the second part. So so that's why the turning in is still, if you identify there are several lines that has been detected, so this is something you have to be aware of already. But you can see from this is from turning in, right? So but you can see from other detection tools, some of them may be classified as human. Yeah, so we try different tools. So some of the tools not working really well. And you can see not every sentence can be detected. So that's why even the percentage is small, you still have to think about this. So maybe just a few lines you already have to explore this. So chain of thought, for this prompt is actually written by human. So by my intern. And then it has been detected as a machine generated, but actually it's generated by humans. So that's why the system also gives some false positive. Yeah. So if you ask students to write the thinking process, and then students write it and fit into the system, and there is a possibility that the system will give a false positive and saying, oh, it's created by humans. So that's why it's not 100% guaranteed. It's just an indicator for you to have a investigation. Okay. Again, yes, these two is okay. ChatGPT, and then etc. So most of them are okay. But you can see from here. So we try different prompting techniques, and you can see for this one, most of them are not by it cannot be detected, except the last paragraph. Yeah. So that's why we try to write. Okay, the previous one is just a marketing assignment. So let's write a more not artificial a story, and then fit into it, and then well, some of the content is okay. For example, this one. So yeah, so not every content can be detected. So here shows the existing example. So yes. So you can see from this example, so it should be able to detect some of the content, but it also give you some false positive. Okay, so this is an example, and you can, so that's why if you see the AI itself here, if you just have a 9% or 3% by detector, so you should also have a look to see what's happened. And sometimes it's false positive, sometimes it's just 2 or 3 sentences that it can be detected. Okay, so this is an example. So I can show you. So this is the previous examples, all are by essay. So we just ask them to, we try different things. We try to ask them to write stories. We ask them to write product description. We ask them to write history essay. We ask them to write some summary things. So on CS. So some of them is okay, some of them not. So that's why, and some of them also give you false positive. So that's why. So if you really just rely on those tools for detection, so it's not guaranteed. So you have to ensure you have to check it by human, have to ask students also. Yeah, so not 100% guarantee for this one. But let you have some ideas or some indicator. Okay, so some of the teachers may think, okay, so ChatGPT can give the essay answers, right? So what about mathematics? Can ChatGPT give correct answers? For example, this is an economic topic. So on test management, so it actually is in introduction to economics. So and this is the question. So supply and demand and the test. So at the end, want to know about the test per unit. And then with mathematics, so GPT 3.5, that means GPT 3.5. Some of you may mention, oh, it's not good at maths. So is it true? So let me, and so what I try is I fit in the questions with a prompt. Okay, assume, oh, you are the economics professor, focus on test management. You can answer and explain the steps. So I just have the define the role first and fit in the question. And then this is the answer. So they provide the 4 steps. So first of all, they mention, okay, so for answering this question, this is step 1 and step 2 and step 3 and step 4. So I cut the step 4 because of the spacing issues. And then, okay, based on the first step, so this is the calculations. And then second step, the answer is this one. And then the first step, we will have these, etc. Okay, so and I give this answer back to the economics professor and then ask him, okay, so can ChatGPT answer your question? And he said 50% correct. So because the step 1 and 2 is correct, but step 3, the answer is wrong. The concept is wrong, not the answer. The concept is wrong. Should not use this concept. So that's why the rest of the calculation is wrong. But if you are a teacher, so if you not just focusing on the answer, you also marking the steps, then you will give also partial answer. So for the rest of the steps. So the first step 1 and 2 is correct. Step 3 is wrong, but you may give some marks here, and step 4 maybe some marks, maybe just 1 or 2 marks. That means the student, without understanding the content, you can already gain 50% of the score already in this mathematics question. So combining of concepts and mathematics and writing. So that's why this is something even for mathematics or economics or social science or STEM teachers you have to be aware of. So again, you have to think about how we should design the questions because of this. And of course, here shows some Turnitin resources. And for Turnitin, so because academic integrity is the core business for them, so that's why they have created a series of materials. So in particular, I find they really useful to go for the misuse rubric or the misuse checklist. So let me see if I can get into this one to let you have a look. So you can see, so where you can yeah, so this is the checklist. So that's why if you want to design your assignment, so you can use this checklist to see whether your assignment have addressed this. If you has been addressed this, so that means if you have addressed most of the items, your answer the student will have more and more difficulty using ChatGPT to give you a direct answer. So this is the first checklist. And then let me see, I skip some of the things first. And then let me go to this one. And also for Turnitin, they also have the rubric. And also they have the misuse checklist rubric. And this one I can show you also. Yes. And here is the misuse rubric. So that's why if you want to design your assignment that really want students to write by themselves, not by the machine. So these are some questions that you will have to think of. So whether you have include student voice you need to ask whether you ask students to provide their voice. So how to design your assignment tasks, essay questions. Whether it has included the reasoning and critical thinking. So you have to ask students clearly, so they have to provide the reasoning thinking process, and then personalization. So again, these are something that more difficult to be replicated or synthesized by machine. It can be synthesized, but it will be more difficulties. So that's why personalization, thinking process, critical thinking, student voice, again personalization. These are something that the ChatGPT is not good at right now. And you can use these materials as a guideline to guide you how you should design the essay question or your assessments. Okay, so you can read the rest of the content by yourself, but these are the most important documents that you can go for. And then you can check the link here. So later on, as mentioned, you will have the links as the slides, and you can click the link. We can again, so this is some recap or experience for me. Ask students to provide a writing plan in the early stage and try to compare with the final essay to see if the students have the consistent. So if you can find the writing plan and the final essay is really different, so then you have to think about whether students at the end, at the last moment, they use ChatGPT and come up with the essay that not following their original plans. But of course, if students, as mentioned, write a good prompt, so using a prompt engineering, fit in all the things inside and let them to design, and then the writing may be more aligned. So again, it really depends on whether students are really good at ChatGPT actually. And then I also asked to reflect on the method cognitive process. Also, you can design assignments that require explanation through graphs, figures, maps. So based on existing studies, so from the, for example, UST team, so they have a big team, did lots of analysis. These are something that they conclude they are not good at inductive reasoning, non-textual semantic reasoning, so spatial mathematical, not good at multi-hop reasoning, not good at physiological reasoning. So these are some reasoning skills that system are not good at. So that's why you have to think about the questions that are assessing this or related to these kind of things. So for example, in even in the economics, they can write something more on sequencing. So we have to do this and that. The sequencing will affect the final answer. Then the answer may be wrong. So there are also different. So if you one of the tricks is also about, so you have to ask students to at the end of the answer have to be aligned with the beginning of the essay. So it should have an echo. For example, at the end you have the last line should be the same as the first line. For example, this is the echo, right? So in Chinese that is I forgot the name. Yeah. So what is the last line or last sentence should be the echo with the first line. So which is in that case ChatGPT can't help actually. And of course, so these are the previous one try to make ChatGPT not working. Of course, another way is you can trigger the ChatGPT to give them false result. We don't go through this data. We don't go through this in the workshop. Okay, so let's talk about we ban it or we don't allow using it. Let's talk about if we adapt it. So what can it be used? How can it be used? So using ChatGPT to as a real-time essay feedback. So because before the final submission, so sometimes students may want to ask you. Some students may want to. Let me see. Some students may send you some essays before the submission and asking you to provide some feedback, right? So we can actually ask the ChatGPT as the tutor to provide the answer, and then to provide some feedback before the final submission. So that's why students can ask the ChatGPT for several iterations, for grammar, etc., and making it more better craft. And before the final submission, this is using it as a chatbot tutor, creating prompting questions to kickstart, so asking ChatGPT to create some discussions, etc. So these are something that we can think of. So, but since we don't have enough time, I overrun already. So that's why I skip some of the discussions here. But you can use it as a prompt taking, so to kickstart the discussions. So and also for initial discussion. So this is how we can use it for facilitating the assessments. So for example, here showing an example. So we want students to ask to answer how we can achieve SDG 13. And then for every student, they input their ideas into ChatGPT and AI give the answer, and every answer is different. And then the students can show this answer to peers and then have to kickstart the discussion. By the way, some of the teachers just say, okay, in the future, since all the answers have been fit into Turnitin or very guide, so in that case, the system have the record already, and the next time it will become the plagiarism detection. So it's wrong, because every time, even you use the same prompt, the system will give you a different answer. And this is the answer that create from scratch. So there's no record. And then the next time the answer is also completely new. So that's why we cannot use a plagiarism detection concept to look for this. So it's actually is AI detection is different from plagiarism detection. It's actually two different things. Okay, so I overrun for 10 minutes already, but we still have the hands-on and then have a break. So I skip something. So we will use the POE.com. So what you need to do is we will spend around 10 minutes to try the system. So you can you just type POE.com, and then the system will ask you to log in through Google account, and you can use your own Google account to get into the system. And then you can see at the left-hand side, there are different system or engine. So we can use ChatGPT. So you can see my answer here. So I try asking this and that, etc. And then there are some other tools, ChatGPT 4, for example. ChatGPT 4 is actually, yes, you can ask one question per day. So limited access, you can ask them in one question per day, but more powerful. And then we will spend around 10 minutes. So since some of you haven't used it before, so let me also just this one. So let me just copy and paste. Yeah, so just put, yes, Cindy also mentioned already. So trying to get into the system and then try it by yourself. And you have different engine is good at different things. So, but we can use in Generative, so you can use ChatGPT. And here shows the workshop hangout. And then you will have the workshop and how to access POE. And then you have some explanations here. Okay, again, so we will have a 10 minutes break. So you can also 10 minutes break, and then can also use it for trying the tools, etc. So again, I remind, so if you want to get into POE, so instructions, so telling what the task, what is the context, that means detailed explanations on the task, input and what should be output, etc. And you can just type, for example. So let me try it. So okay, so let me try ChatGPT. Tell me something about GARSMDETECP. So see if I. So tell me something about plagiarism detection for ChatGPT. It will come up with the answers already. Okay, and then you can see so they try to synthesize the things on the real time. So it's not copying from others. And you can see they detect words by words, and then here shows some of them. Okay, so in particular, there's a turn-in Grammarly. So you can see this answer. I'm not sure Grammarly have the plagiarism detection function. I suppose no. I suppose not. So that's why they can give you some wrong answer. So see, copy escape, is it something really has? Let me see, copy escape. Okay, so it's correct. Okay, but I'm not sure pattern Grammarly has detection. So let me see. I remember it's not Grammarly the plagiarism. Okay, so it's also correct. So in that case, it's correct. So something new to me. But there. So, but here shows an example. So, for example, if you want to know more about and then you can ask follow-up questions, etc. So you can ask one by one, or in POE you can just type this one and then tell me more about Grammarly, and they will keep running these things. Okay. So let's have a 10 minutes break, and also time for you to try the system. And then, before going to the break, so let's have some tips first. So you can in order to write some prompts that can give you more relevant answers, you can have some tips. For example, asking follow-up questions, asking ChatGPT to guide you to raise questions, instruct ChatGPT about your logic. So, for example, you want to based on SWOT analysis, you can write for the SWOT analysis, you should do this and that, etc. So this is what we call chain of thought. And then guide the ChatGPT to think step by step and rethink and confirm the profile answer. So I actually learned this from this article. Just unfortunate is actually is in Chinese. So maybe for some of you not good at Chinese, you may have some difficulty understanding it. But of course, you can still translate it through the ChatGPT. You just copy and paste everything and then get into the system for the translation. You can still have the answer. Yes. So and let's have let's have a 10 minutes break. So within 10 minutes break, we will have you will try the tools. We have a break, have a tea, and then also you can think about this question. So how do these tools facilitate or changing your teaching practice or learning practice? Okay, so maybe let's come back at maybe 310 or maybe 308 because we have content. So let's come back at 308 and then some of you, if you have interest, so you can type your answers, your response on this question through the chat room, and then we can have some discussion later on. Okay, so maybe we have 10 minutes break, have a rest, or get into the system to try the tools, and then write something on the chat room, and then we can discuss after 10 minutes. Okay, so it's at 3:08. So see if our colleagues have any reflections or ideas on this topic, or how whether these tools will change your teaching practice or facilitate or improve your change your teaching practice. Any sharing from colleagues? Okay, if no, so I may before I go to your part, I want to share something first. So it's about maybe I can give you some more examples of those wrong questions, so that boys know actually what kind of questions actually the system will give the false information. So this is an example. I asked the system to provide 4 hours visit to Hong Kong U, and then you will finally found it said start from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So the answer, so it's actually not 4 hours. And if you notice that Hong Kong U doesn't have any science park, and science park is actually in Tai Po, so or Sha Tin, yeah. So you can't walk to science park. So sometimes that is a wrong information. And this is a cyberport campus, but you can see a science park and cyberport, they are not in correct time. So that's why if you are talking about map, talking about time, talking about position, talking about sequence, so the system, and it's in GPT 3.5, sometimes 4, so still can give you the wrong answer. So that's why you have to think about what the weakness point or weakest link in the system, and you can design assessment particular on those items. So and of course you can see some other examples. You can ask system to generate codes, and most of the time you still need to debug, so it cannot be fully automate, or you can not copy and paste. You still need some debugging right now. Later on in the future, I'm not sure. So you can also some of you may want to ask whether it can generate a table. Yes, it can generate a table. Can it draw pictures? Yes. So you can ask them to write a SVG code on UK flag, and you can find the wordings, copy and paste, and you give you an answer. It may not be correct, but they also tell you what will it be, yeah, etc. And then so this is the questions I raised. So what's the topic? Okay, so based on the suggestion, so what to be aware, and then engaging title. Now you can see the original is the creative or art of generative AI, right? This one. Creating an unseen introduction to generative models and their application. I changed it because the later part is not related to TNL. So that's why I changed the wordings. I actually not just using the few basic part and then change the later part. and etc. So and the time sometimes correct, sometimes not correct, and some of tools not okay. Another example that I want to share with you, so is let me see. Let me see. So this is the test management. So originally they give a wrong answer. So and then I tell him, okay, I heard that t should be roughly equal to 0.4. Can you check the answer again? And they give me another answer, but still the answer is wrong. So they will try to give you t is equal to 0.4, but the answer is still wrong. So just let you know, yeah. So t is 0.4, the answer is wrong. Okay. So that's why it's really good, very confident at giving wrong answers. So that's why you may want to try to play some tricks to stimulate the system to give wrong answers, and then if students think it's confident, copy and paste, and you find it really easily. And then some other questions okay on UDL, and I ask some several questions on it. So I skip the content, but I want to say is okay. Let me at the end. The end. I asked several questions and they have this one, but more important, okay, based on our previous conversation, can we summarize the content, the questions that I asked? So you can see the system provide me a lot of answers and ask them to provide a 200-word summary, and the system able to provide 200-word summary, which is more or less summarizing the several questions that I raised. Okay, so this is the background of the ChatGPT. It can use for summarizing the discussions. It's confident to give you some wrong answers. You have to be aware of the whether students are unethically using it. It can be used as a tutor for teach students and for teachers also. So this is the discussion on ChatGPT. And then of course, ChatGPT is just one of the generative AI tools. There are so many of them. So let me pass the mic to Cindy, and then she will talk about some other tools. So other tools on other generative AI tools and how to use it in TNL. So Cindy, your part.
Thank you. I'd like to add something like based on Leon's explorations. I want to say like I think we still the boss to make the final decision. So no worries. Like although there are many generative AI tools, but the following I would like to share some AI tools that we can use in teaching and learning. Again, let me introduce myself. I'm Cindy, and I'm a learning designer. Okay, I'm a learning designer and also work as the teaching assistant in the master level course at Hong Kong U. So I try to consider it into two aspects. The first part is is there any AI tools that we can use like for general use in teaching and learning? First, we need to think of the purpose that we like. What's the purpose of using those AI tools? For example, maybe we want to make better slides, make better graphics, or create contents. For example, meeting notes, class notes, announcement, wikis, etc. So here you can see I have a list of tools that can help us to create better design and create better contents. I will not like name it one by one, but I would like to show you like some of them and give you some examples saying like how we can adopt these tools in teaching and learning. Okay, the first one, it should be like Notion AI, because I'm a big fan of Notions. And like in the past 2 years, we have promoted how to use Notion to help students to do personal knowledge management at the universities. So they also launched the AI bots like Notion AI. So I'd like to show you like how we can make use of Notion AI to help us to do create better contents. And I'm a learning designer, so what we are consider is to try to design the better learning environments and learning experiences for students. So I think it's like last month I was giving a lectures in one of the master level course, and that is about learning design and technology. So those students, they are like future teachers and future learning designers. So I just show them like how AI can help us to create course design, to create a course or to redesign a course within a few minutes. So I'm going to show you the demo. Well, as you can see, I am on a Notion page, then course design. So I have a list of tasks that I would like to ask Notion AI to help. For example, write 5 learning outcomes for a master level course, blah, 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 at the University of Hong Kong, and write 3 individual assessment tasks. Write a rubric for assessment task, for example, the critical review within 2,000 words in APA 7 format, and give me 5 references introducing learning design patterns. In general, a course outlines will be designed in this format. So I just type space for AI and then copy paste each bullet point and ask Notion AI to help. Okay, I would like to show you something. Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay. So Notion AI, we not only can ask it to help to write something, but you can see continue writing, summarize, find action items, translate, explain this. I think it functions very well in creating content in a structured way. So I just copy and paste. Okay, then we can see it helped me to generate the 5 learning outcomes for the master level course. It starts with the action verbs like demonstrate, develop, analyze, understand, and apply. I think I would say it actually following the Bloom's taxonomy, but I wanted to be more specific. So I refine the requirements or the instructions. I copy paste, but I said write 5 learning outcomes with the Bloom's taxonomy for the master level course. And then it refined the 5 learning outcomes with demonstrate, develop, analyze, understanding, applied. And it also showed me which level of the Bloom's taxonomy they are. So I try another one, write 3 individual assessment and 1 group assessment task. Then you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, and the first 3, they are individual assessment tasks, and the final one is a group assessment. Create a learning design plan, blah, blah, blah. Develop a comprehensive report on the use of technology, blah, blah, blah. Write a literature review discussing the impact of educational leadership theories and principles, blah, blah, blah. Then the group assessment task, develop a project proposal for a technology-based learning initiative. And to be honest, our group project in this course is about IT and educational leadership. And in this course, our group assessment task is to write a policy recommendation. So it is a funding proposal. So you can see the assessment, it works very well. And I also asked it to write a rubric for one of the individual assignment and references. And through this case, I try to show students if we only teach in the future, if we only teach disciplinary knowledge and skills in the classrooms, it won't work anymore, because students, they can easily find out those disciplinary knowledge and skills through the internet or with other AI tools or with ChatGPT. So it urges us to rethink what teaching and learning tasks or activities that we need to redesign in the classroom. Maybe we need to teach more values or attitudes. To the left-hand side, I also provide you with 3 links. The first one is the PDF file of the content I just showed you. And another one is the video of introducing Notion AI by Notion. So Notion create a official video of introducing like how we can maximize the functions and features of Notion AI. If you would like to know more about it, you can check it out. And the third one is the user guide to Notion for Education that we created for Hong Kong U students and teachers last year. So if you want to know more about it, you can also check it out. Okay, so from another aspect, like I think for most of the lecturers or teachers, teaching duty just part of your job duty, and maybe another part is like to do research. So I also have some tools for you to do academic research with those AI tools. First thing first, again, we need to think of the purpose. For example, we want to explore research topics or try to narrow down research questions or look for literatures, find a research gap, locate papers and idea in the papers. So actually there are different AI tools for different purpose. And then I found out like these are like my preferences. Maybe you will find some other tools, or like every day there are new tools showing up. But I'd like to share this with you, like, because most of them, they are free for use. And I think these free functions, they are good enough. But for sure, you can subscribe the paid version for more access to the advanced features. Like, although I listed like several tools here, but some of them, like, they share similar features and functions. I will provide you with a comparative table later. Again, I will show you like some examples of some tools among them. The first one is my favorite, Chat PDF. So I'm going to show you like how I use Chat PDF to read the paper, like the paper titled Educational Design and Network Learning, Patterns, Pattern Languages, and Design Practices. It's a very classic one in the field of learning design. But for those who don't know learning design, or even for me, it still takes time for me to understand or comprehend some concepts. And as we all know, like all academic papers, they are like 20-ish long or 30-ish long. So it would be good if there's an assistant or the AI bots that help me to read it first, to comprehend it first, and then I can ask questions. It's like my study buddy. So let's see. Okay. Okay. It's a web-based application, so I think it's quite easy to use. But for students, if they are in mainland, I think they still need to access it with VPN. But for us, it's totally fine. So just go to chatpdf.com, and then we can see there's an area that we can drop PDF here. We can browse the computer or just drag and drop from URL, find the PDF. And here we have some information card. It will show us like how we can make better use of it. So I already have a paper on the desktop, so I just drag and drop. And it processes in a few minutes, in a few seconds, I think. Okay, then we will land on this page. So to the left-hand side, we can see we can actually start new chats, drop PDF here. So we can access chatpdf.com without login. But if we log in with an account, it will like keep the history. So they will have kind of the welcoming message. Okay, so they will have kind of the welcoming message, and they will have a summary of this paper. For example, in this paper, Peter Goodyear introduces blah, 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 blah. And there are 3 example questions. So it's kind of showing us how to ask questions. And I think it's always good to learn from others at the very beginning. And I also suggest you to click on those blue buttons to see what responses they will give based on these questions. Okay, so for example, the first question is, what is the pattern-based approach to educational design and how does it differ from other approaches? Then we can see like they actually ask very specific questions. We have kind of terms that we want to know more about. What is the pattern-based approach and how does it differ from other approaches? Okay, and I think for these tools is more reliable than ChatPDF because ChatGPT, because ChatPDF like the given responses is based on the reading and comprehensions of our input source, like based on the paper. So I think it's kind of reliable. Or if we want to double check for sure, we can get back to the paper and check out those keywords and terms and sentences. But we can also ask ChatPDF. For example, for these questions, maybe the follow-up question I can ask, can you show me like what page the responses or the answers is? And if they have direct answer, it will just show the page. For example, it's on page 2 or it's on page 3. But if there's no direct answer, I didn't do it here, but for example, regarding the third question, are there any examples of successful implementations of this approach in higher education and what were the outcomes? And it will tell us like the PDF file does not provide specific examples of successful implementation, blah, 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 blah. And I tried it and I tried it with another paper, and if like we cannot have the direct answer from the paper, but it will still tell me like the paper like does not mention it very in a explicit in a direct way. But if I want more details or information, I can go to section B or C. So I think it's kind of like still can tell us the source from that paper. So I also ask questions, for example, what is learning design? And then it says learning design, it's a process, blah, blah, blah. So for ChatPDF, it doesn't show the direct answers from the papers. Sometimes it will help to summarize or paraphrase. For example, I also ask question, can you summarize the paper within 200 words? And then it will also provide me with the summary. So I think it is a good way for students if they have like loads of readings. I think it in a way help them to read faster. And also like in the master level course I was helping, we have a very long course outlines with all the details and requirements or different learning tasks, learning activities, reading and assessments. So actually last year, Leon and I, like, we were like we held workshops on how to create a chatbot. But for now, I would just ask students, I say like, you just upload the course outlines and ask ChatPDF to help you to read the course outline. And then you ask the questions. For example, what's the requirement of the individual assessment task 1? So they can like quickly get the information from ChatPDF. Like we don't have to like create a chatbot anymore. Yes, like in this sense. Okay, another one, Elicit. I think Elicit is also a very good tool, but I don't have a demo video for this one because I think it's very user friendly. But I will have some tips for you, like how we can start using tools like Elicit or ChatPDF, something. If you still remember, in previous lectures, Leon showed us the example with like, we actually asked the bots like, oh, now you are the teacher, now you are the expert. of AI and education, something. So if a first time user landing on illicit, it actually there will be the pop-up window and ask you some questions. For example, tell us who you are, and they have different options. For example, I do research within an organization. I do research as a student. I don't do research. Others. I think why they're asking this kind of question, first thing for sure is for marketing use, I think. But another one, I think it also helps us to make it specific and clear what we want the bot to help us. So to the left-hand side, there are 4 questions. Firstly, who you are, who we are, to indicate our role when doing research. And second, what research do you do? Kind of to tell them the field or the interest we are working on. And then what's the main pain points you are hoping illicit can solve? So we try to share what problems that we want to solve, or we cannot solve. So we are asking the bot to help. And then which of these are you most often doing a systematic review, looking for answers, exploring, looking for expertise. I think it also shows the purpose of using this tool. And another one, if you land on illicit to the top right side, they have FAQ, they have tasks, and the start. The start is every time we check out the content or papers, we can actually start it or save it. But I will recommend you to check out the task first, because they will have some recommendations for us, and they will also have some content created by others. As I said previously, it's always good to learn from others at the very beginning. Also put the link here. Then I would like to share the interface of illicit. So they will have a searching bar so that we can type in the contents. We can try to add the inputs there. And to the left-hand side, we can define the question or define the input with more details. The top right corner, functional buttons, and then there is an information panel. So we can see the paper title, abstract summary, and we can also see if there will be any PDF file available, so that we can download it to use. I think it's perfect match with the chat PDF. We search papers first, and then we use chat PDF to read it. Yes. And also they have some filters or sort by year or export as blah, blah, blah. So I would recommend you to try it yourself later on. Okay. So I try to compare these tools, because some of them they share similar functions. For example, the chat PDF and chat DOC. Obviously one is for the PDF file and another is for the documents. Then I don't want to create a table by myself, so I also ask ChatGPT, but I only use the 3.5 version to help me to create a table. And then I double check the features and functions. I think it's okay to introduce those tools in a general way, but for the subscription plan, it's about the money, right? So I did double check the price. So I just found out they actually create those information, because they don't have that much subscription plans. So if we go to another slide, you can see most of the tools, they are free to use. But for some of them, they welcome donations and they welcome investors. But like I said, I think those free versions, that's enough. Yes. Oh, a warm reminder, you're still strongly advised to fact check the ChatGPT answers. Those contents, the features and functions, I think is still okay. But we say it's about the money, it's about the numbers or money or some maybe medical issues, so we need to be very cautious. Okay, so what should we teach in the future? I would like to pass the time to Leon. Maybe Leon can share more with us.
Yes, thanks, Cindy. So in the previous slides, he's talking about the tools for research, but of course, first of all, so all of us as a researcher, we need to do research. So these tools can help. Second is if you teach students about research, so and then these tools may be something that you can think about, or maybe there are some skills that start to we don't need to teach in the future. So that's why let's talk about it. So what should we teach in the future? Is there something that we don't need to teach? Should we teach something else rather than some tools or some skills, etc.? So we have to think about this. Once students have all those tools, so what should we teach? So I use analogy from drawing. So if you know about drawing, so it's actually about several things. So first of all, it's about skills. So the muscle memory. So right now most of the skills, most of the drawing skills can be replicated by AI tools already. So I will show you some examples. And then another dimension is a mindset. So try to understand the context and understand the empathy. Try to understand to change or try to identify the issues and problems and try to communicate. So this is the mindset. So most of these things can be done by AI tools except the therapy. So empathy, not therapy, empathy. So because this is the human mind, right? So machine can't help for empathy for the rest. Understanding, solving problems, understanding context, AI tools can help. And then another dimension is awareness. So it's about talent, it's about comprehension, it's about perception of the subject trend. So it's something about future. So these are something that actually is challenging for AI tools because first of all, awareness is challenging, it's abstract, difficult to quantify, and the tools itself can think about something in the future. So it can talk about the past, it may be able to talk about the present, but it cannot explain or describe the future. And also the comprehension itself is about interdisciplinary. If you know about drawing, so you have to read lots of or go to gallery to watch or read so many drawings, and you have and also from different ages and from different artists in order to have your database in your mind, and then you can comprehend. So because this is actually a interdisciplinary subject. AI tools can help a little bit, but you still have to kickstart to ask the prompt and then to kickstart the whole process. So that's why comprehension, building up a large database in your mindset, go through lots of reference and readings, not readings, but drawings, so help you to build up the awareness. So that's why we are talking about skills, we are talking about mindset, we are talking about awareness. So in Chinese, I frame it as a gei and sheng. So it's three different things. So some of them can be replicated or can be supported by AI. Some can be done by AI, but some can't. So should we teach students more on this, the awareness, and less on skills, etc.? So this is something that teachers should think about. So the rest of the pages, we don't have time for them, for you to try, but I will show you some examples. So if you notice this, this is the beginning of the generative AI thing, so which is in summer. So this is actually a picture that got an award here. You can see fine art in first place. And actually at the end realized that actually this drawing is actually created by AI. So and in the summer last summer. And then starting from that time, so generative AI comes into the public. Okay, so and of course there are lots of debates whether this one can. By the way, you can see the price. So first of all, they get the prize award, and second, it can be sold. It can be sold. And then of course there are lots of discussions or drawing. I want to skip, but I want to give you some examples. So first of all, so some of the teachers may think, okay, ChatGPT can draw. So let me for artists, so it's something that is still not affected, but it's actually not the case. For example, here showing some drawings written draw by me. Okay, so not draw by me, but synthesized by me. So I just import this sentence into the system, and then they were able to create 4 images, and you can change it, you can upscale, you can select one of them to provide several more variations. So this is by portrait. And in history, okay, I want something more realistic, or and also on Middle Age. So this is the prompt I import. So 2 medieval warriors, and then the background, and then you can see the mainframe, and then also the mainframe, and then with some background information. Okay, English coastline, Irish coastline, Scottish, and then also some examples. So Game of Thrones, Lord of Rings, etc. And then with lots of parameters declaring those as back end. And you can already draw these 4 already. And of course, you can change some settings, etc. Select one of them to provide several more variations. Okay, I want to do something more futuristic. So here shows another example. You can see again the main theme, and then the background, and then also some more abstract, some more settings. So make it to be realistic, to be abstract art, and then colorful, foggy with smokes. And here shows 4 examples. But you can see some of them are a circle. This one less light circle. Of course, we can keep changing, and every time they create another images. So these are something that you have to aware of. And by the way, I'm not sure you notice, actually in mainland China, they are start to have more and more creator job, or not creator, graphic designer job has been replaced by AI. So, or at least we just keep, maybe instead of 20 graphical designers, we just keep 5. And then asking those 5 graphical designers to use the Midjourney to create the images, and then do the post editing. So that means that we have lost. Of course we will not lose a trend. We will not lose 20 positions, but we just lost 15. Majority of the positions can be replaced by AI. We still just need to keep a few of them. So this is something that we have to be aware. So again, my question is, what should we teach? What students should be learned? So this is the question that I want to raise to you. So what should students learn, and what should we teach? So yeah, Cindy will also talk a few more slides, and then we have around 10 minutes to have some discussion. So about ChatGPT, about things that students should learn, about how teachers should teach, etc. And we have around 10 minutes for discussions later on. By the way, so one of the teachers asked me. So let me get back to the mass chatbot. Some colleagues asked whether ChatGPT can provide reference with the based on the answers. So answer is most of the time no. So they will ChatGPT will create some fabricated reference. So that's why, of course, using reference as an indicator to check whether this whole content is from ChatGPT or not. This is one of the indicators. But that means that the grader or the tutor also need to spend time to check reference one by one. So which is also time consuming. Yeah. So and also Prosperity.ai will provide you some reference. So most of the time is correct. So that's why, yeah. So again, so it's actually introducing these tools make tutors or make the teachers more difficult to spending more time actually. So neither designing better questions or spending time to check the reference or some hints. So of whether it's from AI generated things. So that's why it's really creating challenges for teachers, because all of us have so many things doing already. Okay, so let me pass the mic to Cindy to talk about the rest of the pages.
Thank you. As we don't have much time, so based on this, I'd like to share some of my aspects from the learning design aspects. Okay, so once there is many AI tools show up, the question I'm thinking of, like, can we just simply design a course with trying to listing out those like disciplinary knowledge and skills, and create assessment tasks or rubrics, referring to the Notion AI examples. Actually, the AI can help to generate that kind of courses in in a minute. So like, are we going to be replaced by those tools? So it actually like urges me to think of like what we can do. So it's not just about course design or instructional design. I would like to emphasize on the learning designs. So learning design, I would see the focus learning or learners. So actually with the focus on how learners learn and require them to be more like I have listed the 4S, or actually it's the 5S. The first one, self-driven, self-motivated, self-regulated, self-disciplined, and self-directed learners. So our learners, they will need to like have that kind of, let's say, like characteristics or features like in this like AI boosting era. Self-driven, I think for learners, they need to know what to learn. Once they get to know more about like what they're really interested in, what they want to learn. For example, maybe some disciplinary knowledge, then some skills, or some values or attitudes. Like once they know what to learn, they can actually like self-driven themselves, like to learn it online or to talk to the mentor, talk to the teacher, have the discussion with peers. And another one is self-motivated. Self-motivated is like learners, they need to know like why to learn. In this way, they can like keep motivating themselves to learn new things. And then self-regulated, knowing how to learn. So regarding this, I think it's more about like energy management, time management, and also knowledge management. Because like there are like more like every day there are new things showing up, coming up. Like we cannot always catch up those new things. I think it's still easy to learn something new, but if we don't use it or adopt it in the real scenario, we will actually forget it very soon. And then another one is self-discipline. I think it's a very hot topic. We keep talking about this, like how to use AI tools in an ethical way. So eventually, the learners, they are expected to, or they should become self-directed learners. And here comes another question, like who is going to design the learning for learners? Obviously, the answer should be like teachers. But like, can we really decide like what students they learn, or can we make them learn? I would say no. But what we can do, I think like we can like function more as a facilitator to design a learning environment and experiences for learner to achieve 5S. So the learning environment or experiences, I think we will still include some knowledge and skills they need to learn, or they can also like easily learn it from the internet. But can we also design some learning activities or experiences for learners that once they experience, they can also learn some attitudes or the like values from that learning experiences. I don't want to like spend much time to introduce learning design, because if we like go deeply about the topic of learning design, we will take another 2 hours or more than that. So learning design is the practice of designing effective learning experiences aimed at achieving design's educational objective in a given context. This is one of the very popular definitions of learning design in this field. And what is the effective learning experiences? Like I said, like learning experiences, it can be like teaching and learning activities in the classroom or after the classroom or even before the classrooms. But when we talk about like effective, it urges us to think of like, does it mean anything? For example, we create a learning activities for students. Can they learn something from that experience and achieve defined educational objective? It actually means like what we want our students, they learn from that learning environment or from that learning activities. And a given content, I would say that's like the disciplinary practice, maybe like in a Chinese contest or in an engineering design contest or a scientific investigation contest, something. Okay, so one of my favorite quotes that I would like to share with you: AI will not replace you, a person using AI will. So I am not that worried about I will be like replaced by those AI tools, and I'm like considering, I'm thinking of like how I can better equip myself with like to be a AI, not like expert, maybe like AI users. So through today's workshop, we introduced many AI tools. I hope you can find some of them useful for teaching and learning and in the real life. Okay, so much for this, and I will pass the time to Leon.
Yes, Ben. So let me see if we have anything that I want to further elaborate. So this one. Yes, I think that's the end for this one. So we have a Mentimeter. So I post the link. So it's actually we want to know whether we have addressed most of the issues we discussed, or whether we have addressed or the things that you want to ask us. Okay, and we still have around 8 minutes. And I think it's time for us to switch on the camera or using the chat room to ask questions, or you want to ask through the chat box, chat box, or you can ask in the Mentimeter, both are okay. So see if yes, so that's the end of the sharing. So see if any colleagues have things they want to share, to discuss, to or you already change some of your mindset, or you want to try something in the coming academic semester. We want to learn from all of you also. Yes, I think for all universities we are running some workshops like this, and we are all new learners on this area. Yeah. Okay, so that's the end for this workshop. So let me pass the mic back to Jason.
Thank you.
So thank you, Leon and Cindy, for the very informative workshop. May I know if colleagues have any questions that you would like to ask the speakers too? Or you can like type it in the Mentimeter and then yeah. So indeed, do you mind if I have questions about data privacy? So what specific measures can be taken to prevent the unauthorized access to the data when utilizing AI in education and research? And I think it particularly concerning the recent information leakage incident involving Samsung colleagues using the ChatGPT to analyze their internal documents. So is there any like suggestions or guidelines how to prevent this from happening?
No, yes, I think first of all, Jason mentioned, so this is one of the privacy issues. It's actually some Samsung colleagues, so using ChatGPT
to
answers to ask some questions and actually
yes.
Involve some company secrets, so leak out to OpenAI. So that's why it's something that actually all of us should be aware of. In particular, I actually mentioned the teaching evaluation team colleagues, so don't use it as an analysis tool. So for example, in teaching evaluation, there are so many personal information. So some of them were about peers, students, himself or herself, teachers. And then if the team or if the teachers just put everything on ChatGPT and ask, and that will be leaked. So of course we can't prevent. For example, what we can prevent is, for example, once we have the credential, so every people have to use the Hong Kong or not use the university account to log in the ChatGPT. Then of course we may have some ways, but mostly we will not. So to find out who leaked the data. Education is the only approach. So I think educating, so don't ask something related to personal questions with personal information. Or if you need to use you can or maybe the university can build up their own system, because for example Stable Diffusion is open source. GPT is not open source, but you can find some similar models online. So if university want to try these technologies for internal purpose, so can build up the system by themselves and then feed in information. But of course, that model or that system will not be that as powerful as GPT, for sure.
I see. So it is important not to input any like sensitive personal information into that kind of AI system. So indeed, I would also like to follow up on the issue of what should we teach in the AI era. So I think as you demonstrate, generative AI can help students to do a lot of stuff and help the teachers too. So it is a very powerful tool. For example, it can help us to digest a research paper or a course outline. But sometimes some teachers may think that the course aim is to train the students' ability to read and comprehend the paper by themselves. And they have concerns about whether students can use these tools to do these tasks without exerting effort, so that they don't have sufficient training on this ability. And do you have any suggestions how to like still train students' ability in these kind of areas in face of the rise of AI tools? Shall we modify the assignments in a certain way, or do you suggest that the learning objectives overall need to be modified in the AI era?
I think first of all, yes, I agree. Synthesizing skills still is a foundation skills to be learned by students, because as we mentioned at the very beginning. So I think there are two things that students should learn. First, how to use these tools ethically. Second, how to evaluate the answer created by ChatGPT or this system. So if you know how to evaluate, that means you should have the foundation skill to synthesize the data by yourself. So that's why you need to learn. Students still need to learn how to synthesize in order they know how to evaluate. So this is the Bohm's taxonomy. So evaluation right now becomes if you notice that actually the updated Bohm's taxonomy, so evaluation becomes the higher skills than synthesize. So but of course, bringing it back, so synthesize still the skills that everybody should learn. Yeah. And of course, changing the learning objective. So, for example, changing from synthesis, the content becomes evaluating the content. So, this is one of the things that should think about. Cindy, any feedback from you?
Yes. Actually, in our master level course, we use perusal. Like we ask students to read on perusal to highlight those like they think they have questions or they think it's important, and we ask them to ask questions and reply to their peers' questions. And in my opinion, I think this kind of AI tool will help smart students to learn smarter, because they need to ask questions. Like if they don't know how to ask smart questions, they don't know like what they are asking, I think they might just simply use the PDF file and try to use, I think it's Command F, like to find the keywords, find the content. Like just similar, like when we use ChatGPT, we need to we also need to ask questions or use prompt in a smart way. Otherwise, students just find it's another version of Google.
Yes.
So nothing different. Yes. So in my sense, like I think smart students, they can use it in a smart way. Yes.
Yeah. I think like it is now very important to ask appropriate questions to use AI more efficiently. Yeah. So any questions from other colleagues? So if no, then again, let me express my gratitude to Leon and Cindy again for sharing your expertise and insight on this area. So this workshop basically has provided a very valuable foundation for understanding this emerging field and its potential applications in teaching and learning. And you guys also introduced a lot of different AI tools in addition to ChatGPT to us. So as what you said, the rise of generative AI has the potential to change teaching and learning. And as teachers, we must stay up to date about its latest development to know how to adapt to this rapidly evolving trend. So thank you again. And if no other questions, then pretty much this is the end of the workshop. And then thank you so much.